Dispensationalism is a tradition within American evangelicalism and fundamentalism that has been experiencing several stages in its history. Classical dispensationalism is the first stage, from about 1909 to 1965, but its precursor was the Niagara Bible Conference era that began in 1875. This period was the beginning of systematized dispensationalism, though not yet labeled as such. The conferences emphasized premillennialism. In 1909, the Scofield Study Bible was published, capturing much from the Niagara era. It's this phase that begins to be called dispensationalism in the 1930s. Classical dispensationalism offered one fixed scheme of 7 dispensations, each focusing on man's response to God's revelation. It promoted the proper use of both literal spiritual hermeneutics, but emphasized literal hermeneutics for prophecy. These early dispensationalists believed the church in Israel would be separated for eternity, the two peoples having different modes of life, different eternal destinies, one in heaven, one on earth. The hope of the church was the pre-trib rapture, and this phase of dispensationalism tended to distinguish completely the church from all the covenants and all the promises of the Old Testament, which it tended to see only for Israel. It argued for a postponed kingdom and that there is no present kingdom reality today. Revised dispensationalism, traditionally called essentialist, from 1965, is the first stage to acknowledge development in the tradition known as dispensationalism. Charles Ryrie's 1965 book, Dispensationalism Today, offered a different definition of what a dispensational is. He said it essentially had 3 aspects: the distinction between Israel and the church, the commitment to a normal or plain interpretation of the Bible, and the belief that there was an underlying purpose doxology in all God's dealings with humanity. It offered a variety in dispensational schemes. However, Ryrie stayed with Scofield's 7 dispensations. It also taught a pre-trib rapture. It modified the law-grace language of Scofield to a more unified soteriology. It began the investigation of a covenantal relationship between Israel and the church. It also experimented with alternate views of the kingdom, dispensing with the kingdom of heaven, kingdom of God distinction of Scofield, while exploring the views of Dwight Pentecost, Elva McLean, Charles Ryrie. Progressive dispensationalism, beginning about 1986, rejects the claim that Ryrie's sine qua non has accurately defined the essence of American dispensationalism. Like revised dispensationalism, it affirms grammatical, historical, literary hermeneutics. It sees the dispensations as progressively related as stages in redemptive history. It affirms the integration of all the biblical covenants, noting that there are real fulfillments in some aspects of the covenants today. It sees the kingdom as an integrating biblical theme and focuses more on the role of Christ in dispensational change. Darrell Bock has argued that an initial and inaugural rule of Jesus in the present age, teaching an already and not yet career of Jesus, or reference to the kingdom as the invisible and visible kingdom of God today. So in the current period, Jesus is not visibly reigning from the right hand of God as he sits in heaven, but in the future period, he will reign visibly on the earth. So the kingdom is present in both periods and is manifesting the activity of God in the world. Thus, the theme of the kingdom of God is much more central to progressive dispensationalism than it is to revised dispensationalism.